Hello everyone. By the end of this video, you will be able to solve heart of algebra problems for the SAT. We're going to go over solving equations, function notation, linear word problems, and everything that the heart of algebra portion of the SAT encompasses. So we'll start off with number 1. The graph of y equals f of x is shown below. Which set lists all the real values of f of x equal to 0? So remember, f of x is the same thing as y. So they're saying what are the values of x where y equals 0? So we're going to see where y equals 0. This is going to be the x-intercept, the x-axis. And all the points where it crosses are going to be the answers. So the graph crosses the x-axis at 3, at 0, and at -2. And the answer here is going to be number 4. Number 2, 2z plus 1 equals z. Our first step here is going to be to subtract 2z on both sides. We're going to be left with 1 equals z minus 2z is going to be negative z. And to get z by itself, we divide both sides by -1. And we're going to get that z equals -1. Number 3, a television with a price of $300 is to be purchased with an initial payment of $60 and weekly payments of $30. Which of the following equations can be used to find the number of weekly payments W required to complete the purchase, assuming there are no taxes or fees? So in order to answer this question, we need to think about the context of the question. A television with a price of $300, and then this is going to be equal to the payment plan that they set forth. So the 300, which is the full price of the TV, is going to equal an initial payment of $60. That's just going to be 60 plus weekly payments of $30. So this is going to be 30 times the variable that represents the number of weeks that have passed, which will be W. And if we look at the answer choices, this is answer choice C. Number 4, in the system of equations above, A is a constant. For which of the following values of A does the system have no solution? First, we need to think about what it means in order for a system of equations to have no solution. A system has no solution when the slopes of the two lines are the same, but the y-intercepts are different, or if the two lines are parallel. So what we need to do is get y by itself for each variable. On top, all we have to do is add 3x over, and we'll be left with y equals 3x plus 6. The second equation, we first have to subtract ax. We'll have 2y equals -ax plus 4. And then we're going to divide everything by 2. Plus 4. And then we're dividing everything by 2. Here we're going to get y equals -a over 2x plus 2. Remember, a system has no solution when the slopes are equal and the y-intercepts are different. We already have that the y-intercepts are different. All we need is for the slopes to be the same. We're going to set the slope of the first equation equal to the slope of the second equation. And then to get a by itself, first we're going to multiply 2 on each side. And we'll get 6 equals negative a. To get a by itself, we're going to divide each side by negative 1. And we'll get that a equals negative 6. Number 5. If a and b are solutions to the equation above, what is the value of the absolute value of a minus b? First, we need to figure out what the solutions to the equation above are. Whenever we have an absolute value, we need to break it down into two separate equations. One is going to look exactly the same, and the other, whatever side is opposite to the absolute value, we're going to multiply by negative 1. For the equation on the left, we're going to subtract 1 on each side, and we'll have 2x equals 4. We'll divide 2 on each side, and we'll get that x equals 2. For the equation on the right, we're going to subtract 1 on each side. We'll get 2x equals negative 6. And then to get x by itself, we're going to divide each side by 2. And we'll get that x equals negative 3. Now the question is not asking for what the solutions are. They're asking for a minus b in the absolute value. And it doesn't matter what order we put them in. So we'll say the absolute value of 2 minus negative 3, which will become the absolute value of 2 plus 3, which will give us the absolute value of 5, which is just 5. And this is our answer. Number 6. A helicopter initially hovers 40 feet above the ground, begins to gain altitude at a rate of 21 feet per second. Which of the following functions represents the helicopter's altitude above the ground y in feet t seconds after the helicopter begins to gain altitude? So at the beginning of our situation, the helicopter is already hovering at 40 feet in the air. Then it begins to gain altitude at a rate of 21 feet per second. We need a variable to represent the number of seconds. And then we're going to be adding these two together, and that's going to give us our total altitude. We look at which equation matches, and that's going to be B. The initial hovering of 40 feet is 40 here. There's no variable attached because it's already there. And then we begin to gain altitude at a rate of 21. At a rate of 21 feet per second. That's going to be 21 times the variable that represents seconds. In this case, it's t. For number 7, we have 2x plus 3y equals 1200 and 3x plus 2y equals 1300. Based on the system of equations above, what is the value of 5x plus 5y? When we use elimination, usually we want to have a specific variable to have the same number in front with opposite signs. But the same idea will apply in this question. Instead of eliminating one variable, we're simply going to add the two equations together. 2x plus 3x is going to be 5x. 3y plus 2y will be 5y. And then 1200 plus 1300 will be 2500. And the question is asking what is 5x plus 5y? 5x plus 5y equals 2500. Number 8, 2 over 3 times the difference between 9x and 6 minus 4 equals 9x minus 6. The first step is going to be to distribute the 2 over 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3 times 2 is going to be 6x. Negative 6 divided by 3 is going to be negative 2. negative 2 times 2 is going to be negative 4. And this is going to equal 9x minus 6. The question is asking for 3x minus 2. If we subtract 6x on each side, we're going to get negative 4 equals 3x minus 6. Then we can add 6 over to the other side. And we're going to get negative 2 equals 3x. And the last step to get x by itself would be to divide by 3 on both sides. And we'll get that x equals negative 2 over 3. Remember, the question is not asking for what x is equal to, so the answer cannot be C. The question is asking for 3x minus 2. And we need to plug in what x equals. We found that x equals negative 2 over 3. So we're going to plug this in. 3 times negative 2 over 3 minus 2. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And then minus 2 will be negative 4. Or answer choice A. Number 9. The first year Eleanor organized a fundraising event, she invited 30 people. For each of the next 5 years, the invited doubled the number of people she had invited the previous year. If f of n is the number of people invited to the fundraiser n years after Eleanor began organizing this event, which of the following statements best describes the function f? Here we need to look through the answer choices, and we need to think about the situation. She's doubling each year. So each time she hosts the event, she's doubling the number of people as the previous year. So if year 1, she invited 30 people. Year 2, she invited 60. Year 3, she invited 120. Then we're going to read the answer choices. The function f is a decreasing linear function. That's not true. The number is increasing as x increases. The function f is an increasing linear function. That's not true either. It's growing exponentially. So the answer is going to be that the function f is increasing exponentially, because 1, it's increasing, 2, it's growing exponentially, not linearly. The relationship between x and y can be written as y equals m times x, where m is a constant. If y equals 17 when x equals a, what is the value of y when x equals 2a? So we're starting off with the equation y equals m times x. They tell us that y equals 17 and x equals a. If we plug that in, we'll get 17 equals m times a. What is the value of y when x equals 2a? So if we find out what m equals, we can divide each side by a, and we'll get that 17 over a equals m. So we can plug that in for our equation. Instead of m, we can plug in 17 over a, and now we're going to multiply this by x, which happens to be 2 times a. The a on the bottom and the a on top both cancel, and we're left with 17 times 2, which will give us y equals 34. And that's our answer here. Number 11. The function h is defined above. What is h of 5 minus h of 3? H of 5 means we're plugging in 5 into the exponent. 2 to the 5th power is 32. We're going to do the same with h of 3. This will be 2 to the third power, which is 8. H of 5 minus h of 3 is going to equal 32 minus 8, which will be 24. Or answer choice C. Number 12. For the function f defined above, what is the value of f of negative 1? So we have that f of x equals x plus 3 over 2. For f of negative 1, wherever we see an x, we're going to replace it with what's inside of the parentheses. Instead of x, we're going to have negative 1 plus 3 over 2. Negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2 over 2, which will be 1. And that'll be answer choice C. Number 13. In the figure above shows the complete graph of the function f in the xy plane. The function g is defined by g of x equals f of x plus 6. What is the maximum value of the function g? Well, when we look at the maximum value of the function f of x, we can see that that is going to be 2. Whenever they say maximum value, they're referring to the y coordinates. The highest y coordinate of f of x is 2. G of x is f of x plus 6. So all we're going to do is add the maximum value here to 6, and that'll give us 2 plus 6, which equals 8. And this is our answer. Number 14. 4x plus 2 equals 4. If x satisfies the equation above, what is the value of 2x plus 1? There's a few different ways that we can solve this question. The simplest and most straightforward is to find x and then plug it back in. Our first step to find x here would be to subtract 2 from each side. That'll give us 4x equals 2. And to get x by itself, we can divide each side by 4. And that'll give us x equals half. We can plug this in for x into the expression that they're asking us to evaluate. 2x plus 1. We know that x is half. 2 times half is 1. Plus 1 is going to be 2. 15. In the xy plane, line L has a y-intercept of negative 13 and is perpendicular to the line of the with equation y equals negative 2 over 3x. If the point 10, comma b is on the line, what is the value of b? So first we're constructing a y equals mx plus b equation. They're telling us that our y-intercept, or our b, is negative 13. And they're telling us that our slope is perpendicular to the slope of this line. A slope perpendicular to negative 2 over 3 is positive 3 over 2. And this is going to be our slope. So we have our y-intercept, we have our slope. We're going to have y equals 3 over 2x minus 13. They're telling us that 10 comma b is a point on our line, so we need to plug this in. 10 is our x, b is our y, and we'll plug this into the equation that we have. Instead of y, I'm going to put b equals 3 over 2 times 10 minus 13. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Minus 13 is going to be 2. So we find that the b of that ordered pair will be 2. Number 16. A line with the equation 4 over 5x plus 1 over 3y equals 1 is graphed in the xy plane. What is the x coordinate of the x-intercept? Whenever we're looking for the x-intercept, all we're doing is we're setting y equal to 0. We have our equation 4 over 5x plus 1 over 3y equals 1. Instead of y, we're going to plug in 0. We'll have 4 over 5x plus 1 over 3 times 0 equals 1. We know that 1 over 3 times 0 is going to be 0. And 4 over 5x plus 0 is just 4 over 5x, which equals 1. To get x by itself, we need to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. On the left side, these two fractions cancel and we're left with just x. On the right side, 1 times 5 over 4 is 5 over 4. And the coordinate to the x-intercept will be 5 over 4, comma 0. Here we have a system of equations, 2x minus y equals 8, and x plus 2y equals 4. For the system of equations above, what is the value of x plus y? We're going to solve for one of the variables, and then once we have both, we're going to add them together. We're going to start off with the equation on the bottom. Our first step will be to subtract 2y on both sides. We'll be left with x equals negative 2y plus 4. And then we can plug this into the other equation. 2, and instead of x, we're going to plug in what x equals. Negative 2y plus 4 minus y equals 8. We can distribute the 2, and we'll have negative 4y plus 8 minus y equals 8. We can combine the like terms together. Negative 4y minus y is negative 5y plus 8 equals 8. We can subtract 8 on both sides, and we'll get negative 5y equals 0. And then finally, if we divide each side by negative 5, 0 divided by negative 5 will just be 0. We can plug this back into the original equation that we have here. X equals negative 2y plus 4. Instead of y, we plug in what y equals, which is 0. Negative 2 times 0 plus 4 is going to be 4. So we have that x equals 4, y equals 0, and they want to know what's x plus y. 4 plus 0 is going to be 4. And that'll be answer choice B. Number 18. Which of the following is an equation of the line L in the xy plane above? So we need to see which one of these equations matches the x and y intercepts, which for both of them are negative 4. For A, if we set x equal to 0, we'll get negative y equals negative 4. And to get y by itself, we would divide each side by negative 1, and we'll find that y equals positive 4. However, the y-intercept is negative 4. So it cannot be A. For B, if we set y equal to 0, we'll get that x minus 0 equals 4, or x equals 4. But when we look at the x-intercept, we see that the x-intercept is actually negative 4. So once again, B is not the solution. For C, if we set x equal to 0, we'll get y equals negative 4. And if we set y equal to 0, we'll get x equals negative 4. And this is going to be our solution. Answer choice C. Number 19, we have the system of equations 7x plus 3y equals 8 and 6x minus 3y equals 5. For the solution x comma y to the system of equations above, what is the value of x minus y? So in order to solve this system of equations, we can add the two equations together. 7x plus 6x is 13x. 3y minus 3y is 0, so plus 0, equals 8 plus 5 is 13. 13x plus 0 is going to be 13x, which equals 13. And then we're going to divide each side by 13. And we'll get that x equals 1. We can plug this back into the equation on top. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3y equals 8. We subtract 7 on each side, and we'll get 3y equals 1. And then to get y by itself, we divide each side by 3. And we'll get that y equals 1 over 3. So we have that y equals 1 over 3, x equals 1. When we subtract x by y, we'll have 1 minus 1 over 3. 1 we can change as 3 over 3 minus 1 over 3, which will give us 2 over 3. And that'll be answer choice B. The last question for today is going to be question 20. Which of the following is the graph of the equation y equals 2x minus 5 in the xy plane? The two important things to note here for this equation is that we have a positive slope. That means from left to right, we should be increasing. And we have a y-intercept of negative 5. So we're going to cross the y-axis below the x-axis, or on the bottom half of the graph. So for A, if you notice, we cross the y-axis above the x-axis, so it can't be A. For B, from left to right, we're decreasing. It cannot be B. When we compare C and D, C has a positive y-intercept, which we know that our y-intercept is negative 5, so it cannot be D. And then, or it cannot be C. And D, we have a y-intercept of negative 5, which checks out. And from left to right, we're increasing. So this also checks out. The answer is D. If you learned something new in this video or genuinely enjoyed it, please make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more math content and higher SAT scores. I'll see you in the next one.